Hello, my name is Natalie Overstreet, and this is my discussion post for Module 3 of Info 5405. Here are my top reasons for adopting a collection policy. Reason 1, the collection policy defines the scope and coverage of the collection. Reason 2, the collection policy aids in weeding or deselection of the collection. Reason 3, the collection policy ensures a degree of consistency. So, for reason 1, it is important to define the scope and coverage of the collection policy um, by clearly defining the limits on age appropriateness, making sure nonfiction resources are accurate, including favorable reviews, in our case, at my district, at least two, and balancing the cost of the materials with the need. It's important, again, for the collection policy for reason 2 to aid in the weeding and deselection of the collection. You need to make sure that your materials are up to date and that they are accurate. You don't want to have technology from 20 years ago still in the library. And you also need to see when the materials were last checked out. If it's been a long time, those are books that you could potentially weed. Reason 3, the collection policy ensures a degree of consistency. The policy should be aligned at both the campus and district levels. Self-censorship is when a librarian tries to avoid controversy by restricting materials that may potentially be challenged but still offers them upon request. In the article I read by Moeller and Becknell, the author states, in short, challenges to materials often create environments in which librarians feel professionally insecure, under attack by community members, and sometimes in fear of their occupational livelihood. In the article titled, They're So Stinkin' Popular, How Could You Say No? Graphic Novel Collection Development in School Librarian Self-Censorship, the author discusses the new popular book format of graphic novels. The article is a collection of 20 different librarians discussing their collection development practices when it comes to graphic novels versus traditional novels. They also highlight the controversy surrounding self-censorship and other related issues. So, what is the problem with self-censorship? Self censorship is largely influenced by a librarian's experience with book challenges. In the study I read, most librarians restricted books based on sexual content, objectionable language, and violence. Other times it was restricted based on age appropriateness. For example, graphic novels not being offered to kindergarten students due to age appropriateness. It is important to be aware of your own biases because it may be inhibiting students' fundamental right to intellectual freedom. I learned one way to circumvent some self-censorship is by allowing access but requiring parent approval, especially for librarians that are worried about book challenges, and that librarians are still hesitant to add graphic novels to their collections despite traditional books taking up most of the challenges received. Lastly, I read the article Children's Collection Development Good Books or Books Kids Like, where the author explains that good books can in fact be books that kids like. For a book to be considered quality, it had to speak to the reader, have a well developed theme, an effective plot, believable characters, and a great read aloud quality. For a book to be considered bad, it had to be bland, boring, and above the comprehension level of the reader. These books are usually mass produced TV tie ins that lack quality despite outward appeal. So, overall, quality versus popularity um, isn't really a big deal as long as the book itself is quality. It can be both at the end of the day. And also, really, you can make any story exciting as long as you have the toolkit to make it exciting. There was a reference in the article where there was a mass produced like Disney book and the girls just weren't enjoying it. And so the mom used her knowledge of some good books from the library that were quality to make it more interesting for them. And lastly, here are the references that I used for my presentation. I used the article Children's Collection Development Good Books and Books Kids Like. I also used the textbook, The Collection Program in Schools, Concept and Practices. And then I also looked at the article, They're So Stinking Popular, How Could You Say No? Graphic Novel Collection Development and School Librarian Censorship. Thank you for taking the time to view my presentation. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at my UNT email listed below.